Hello, this is the Death Row and Executions channel. My name is Paco. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more death row news. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. Also, check out my other channel here on YouTube called The Maximum Sentence, where I cover recent crimes and convictions. There will be a link for that as well. This next story that I'm going to tell you about today, about this case, is so sick. It's so disgusting that if you want to shut me off and skip to another YouTube video, I will fully understand. I wanted to puke while reading the case files on this. These are also the kind of stories that give me trouble with YouTube, depending on what words I use. But here it goes. These two women you see here are first cousins, Tonya VanDyke and Tracy Brown. Tracy's mom and dad are Tonya's aunt and uncle, and vice versa. Tonya was born in 1970, so she would have been about 40 years old in the year 2010. Tracy was either 44 or 46 years old at the time, depending which report we go by in the media. They were also very close and even worked together at the same place, at a Clanton, Alabama healthcare facility. Tonya also had a boyfriend, and his name was James Osgood. He was 41 years old in 2010, and they were both living together. Osgood would later tell investigators that he was a fan of true crime shows on television, and for a long time he had considered committing some of the crimes that he had watched. After watching an episode of CSI in which two brothers kidnapped someone, locked the person in a cage, and then repeatedly tortured the person, he told his girlfriend, Tonya VanDyke, how he would like to do something like that. And after discussing his fantasies with VanDyke, amazingly, he learned that she has had similar fantasies, and they began making plans to make it happen. According to Osgood, they first thought about finding a registered sexual offender or someone who has done really bad things. And if that doesn't work out, maybe just kidnap anyone at random, possibly from a Walmart store. However, those plans were eventually scrapped, and they decided that their victim would be Tonya's cousin and co-worker, Tracy Lynn Brown. On October 13th, of the year 2010, a Wednesday, the three of them got together. Osgood was armed with a gun that day. They first went to Tracy's workplace where she picked up her paycheck. After that, they ran a few errands that included Tracy cashing her paycheck at the bank, paying her electric bill, and then went to a nearby town because Tracy wanted to have a look at a car that she was thinking about buying. After running all the errands, they all went back to Tracy Brown's home. Tracy lived in a mobile home in the Enterprise neighborhood of Chilton County in Alabama. The three of them sat talking, and eventually the plan between Osgood and VanDyke was put into motion. Tonya went into a hallway in the trailer home and asked Tracy to accompany her. In the hallway, Tracy would have her back to James Osgood when he came in. Tonya slapped Tracy hard in the face, which was the signal for Osgood to enter the hallway. He came up from behind Tracy and put a chokehold on her until Tracy was almost unconscious. Osgood and VanDyke then dragged Tracy into a bedroom, and she was forced to perform oral on Osgood while her cousin, Tonya, held a gun pointed at her head. At one point, Osgood told Tonya that if Tracy bites him, to shoot her. When that was over, Tracy asked if she can use the bathroom. Osgood followed her into the bathroom and waited there until Tracy finished defecating into the toilet. When Tracy was done, she was forced back into the bedroom. Now, Osgood's girlfriend, Tonya VanDyke, removed her clothes and laid on the bed. Tracy was ordered to undress and get on her hands and knees on the mattress, and she was forced to perform oral on Tonya, on her cousin. Meanwhile, Osgood went around behind Tracy and penetrated her in front and in back, while she continued performing oral on Tonya. This is so sick. Anyway, I guess this is the best way I can word this in abiding by YouTube's restrictions on what I'm allowed to say. When they were all done, Tracy said she needed to use the bathroom again to defecate. Osgood followed her into the bathroom, and this time he forced Tracy to perform oral on him while she was seated on the toilet defecating. According to Osgood, when they were done in the bathroom, Tracy made a run for it and tried escaping out the rear door of the trailer home. But Osgood had grabbed her by the hair and forced her back into the bedroom, and that he then penetrated her once again. Afterward, Osgood and his girlfriend VanDyke looked at each other as a signal that it was time to end Tracy's life. But they would not use the gun they had been threatening Tracy with the entire time. Osgood removed the knife that he had tucked in his sock and sliced Tracy's neck. When he saw that Tracy was still alive and moving, he stabbed her several times in the back. And that wasn't working out fast enough for him, so he sliced into her neck again several more times. While he was doing that, he was apologizing to Tracy. He told her that it was nothing he had against her, but that she needed to quit fighting it and let herself go. That's actually a quote from the report. In other words, he was never angry with Tracy about anything. It's just that he and Tonya wanted to live out this fantasy that they have had, and she was the easiest target. Osgood and VanDyke then left the trailer home. For some reason, the gun he had with him was left behind. I don't know if it was forgotten or intentional, but that does seem quite careless. Osgood would later state that he and his girlfriend then went back to their place, and they were so excited about what they had done that they were then intimate with each other that night. That right there is possibly the most disgusting part of this story. On the following morning, now Thursday, October 14, 2010, Tracy's coworkers became concerned when she hadn't arrived at work. Tracy was a very reliable employee and would have called if there was a problem. Her employer then contacted management at the mobile home park where Tracy lived, and they were asked to please go and check on her. Someone from the trailer park office gained access into Tracy's mobile home and discovered her with no clothes on in a pool of blood in the home, and police were notified. The lead investigator in the case had also learned from friends of Tracy about a man also living in the mobile home community who had been harassing her and making advances for quite some time, but that she would have nothing to do with him, and he became the primary suspect. However, after questioning the man and later getting DNA comparisons, that man was cleared. The investigator would also learn that Tracy had spent much of the day before, with her cousin Tonya and the boyfriend, James Osgood, so both were brought in for questioning. The detective noticed a cut on Osgood's finger that he recognized as possibly having cut himself while stabbing someone when the knife slips from being bloody. Osgood at first denied everything. When asked why his gun was located at Tracy's home, he said that he had lent it to Tracy for protection because she was complaining about a man named Richardson who lived in the trailer park and had been harassing her, and she was afraid of him. After investigators also questioned Tonya VanDyke and realizing that their stories weren't adding up, the investigator made the decision to arrest both of them and charged them with murder. The detective also obtained a search warrant for their home and car, and additional evidence was found linking them to the crime. And the case became solidified when several months later, A woman who was an inmate at the same jail where Tonya VanDyke was being held contacted the investigator on the case and told him that Tonya confessed to her every detail of the crime. And she provided all those details to the detective. The detective then went to the jail where James Osgood was being held to confront him with what he had. But the detective tricked Osgood. He didn't disclose that he got those details from a woman jailhouse snitch. He told Osgood that this comes directly from his girlfriend, Tonya VanDyke. And the detective proceeded to mention precise details from that day in the trailer home that Osgood knows that only he and Tonya would know. At that point, Osgood dropped his head and gave a full, detailed confession and filled in for the detective everything else, which matched up perfectly with the report that the detective was holding. That entire confession was video and audio recorded and later played for jurors at trial. The case didn't go to trial for James Osgood until 4 years after the crime, in May of 2014. That's when he was found guilty and sentenced to death, which means he will have been on death row 11 years if his scheduled execution on April 24th of this year is carried out. That is a relatively short time to be on death row compared to other cases. The fact that Osgood has waived his appeals against the death penalty and has said that he deserves to die and that he looks forward to it may have been a factor in the time period being shorter. During closing arguments, Chief Assistant District Attorney C.J. Robinson told the jury, "Why did Tracy Brown die? That life was taken because that man right there wanted to fulfill some twisted fantasy to kill someone. He enjoyed it. The same things you heard this week that turned your stomach turned him on." The trial for Tonya VanDyke happened a year later in 2015. She was also found guilty. Prosecutors had also considered the death penalty for her, but she was ultimately sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. You know, if James Osgood had been paying attention to the CSI shows that he was fond of, he should know that the perpetrator never gets away with it. They are always caught. Please remember to hit the subscribe button for more death row and upcoming execution stories so that you are alerted when the next one comes out. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. My name is Paco Rivera. Take care and bye for now.